Welcome back to the Bookkeeper Blueprint podcast. So today we are super excited. Sherry and I have a guest with us, Miss Jennifer Allwood. Y'all probably heard us talk, if you've been around for any amount of time, about her. She even came on last year and spoke with y'all too. But she is the author of Fear is Not the Boss of You. So y'all hear me talk about that all the time because one of my favorites. So so I guess we're just going to kind of talk a little bit about like mindset around being an entrepreneur and any questions, of course, that y'all have. But Jen, that's one of the things that we see like a lot of times that people like huge struggles with, especially, and I'm sure you see that all the time in your business too. But just struggling with mindset in general, especially going from I've worked for somebody to now I'm being an entrepreneur. So like just that shift in general.
It's a huge shift. And thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Excited to
Yeah,
have you.
because you just kind of have to almost like redo your entire thinking to go
Yep.
from employee thinking to entrepreneur thinking. And a lot of the times, if you've known the whole time you've been an employee that you really wanted to be an entrepreneur, or that you're kind of already naturally wired in that way, that will make the transition easier. But for some people, I think it can be difficult to not have somebody that they're accountable to every day, to not have someone tell them, hey, this is the expectations, or these are
Right.
the goals, or here's what you need to do. And so to make that shift, sometimes it's really a challenge for people, and they'll find themselves unmotivated. They'll find themselves really doubting the decision that they just made for transitioning. They'll wonder if they're, cut out for this, et cetera. And I have some tips for that, but I do think that laying down that, okay, I used to have somebody else, to tell me what to do, like, to then putting on the hat of, okay, now everything is up to me. It is a big shift. And the truth is some people are not cut out for it, and that's okay. And other people are so cut out for it. And like you ladies, and myself, I think. And the good news is that if it doesn't come to you naturally, it can be learned. And you
Right.
can get around the right people. You can be coached by the right people, because having a coach isn't like working for somebody else, but it is at least another person outside of you that can help you kind of look at things in a different way, that can help you see things from a different angle, that can help you kind of point out some of your blind spots. So I really think that if you're someone who has worked for someone else for a long time, and it's been hard for you to kind of transition, because it's not only the mindset that changes, but also like you're not going to a day job anymore, where you're able to sit with people in the lunchroom and have conversation. And so a lot of times I think people are really surprised by how lonely being an entrepreneur can be at times. And so, that I'm a huge proponent for being coached, and I know you guys feel the same way. It's just really important for you to get around other people who are doing the same thing that you are, who have similar values and goals. You're all kind of going in the same direction. They can hold your feet to the fire and vice versa. And that is really, really helpful in making transitions.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, we hear all the time, and I'm sure you hear the same thing. Like you always forget how much you valued that coworker next door just to be able to bounce ideas off of. So like that's a huge part of like with coaching, you have somebody there to be able to talk to and ask those
Right.
questions to.
I think I'm kind of the anomaly, because I was so happy to get out of corporate America. I'm like, I don't need to talk to anybody ever. But also I think that's because I'm, truly through and through an absolute introvert, and which
Yeah.
always shocks other people, because, I have to kind of show up in an extroverted way for my job. But that just because I show up, smiling, encouraging online, that doesn't mean I'm an extrovert. So, when we're done with this recording today, I will try not to talk to anybody, like use no words for an hour, just because, it's draining sometimes, even to be with people just on Zoom. So,
Yeah.
and the cool thing is that like when I started to become an entrepreneur back in the year 1999, my official business started in the year 2000. We didn't have Zoom, we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have Instagram. And so, the only place you were able to find other entrepreneurs that you could hang out with, talk to, things were, if there were like meetups in your community, business groups. And I know you guys are way too young to even remember probably what I'm talking about. But how did you find out about those? Well, either it was word of mouth, because it wasn't like you were going to see it on Instagram or Facebook, you know what I mean?
Right.
So it would have to be another person that knew you were going, and they would have to give you an invite. And I never went to any of those things. I never went to any networking things. I hate that stuff, still do. I'm like, let me just be weird and alone at my house all by myself as an introvert. And But for people that are very extroverted, like my husband, the transition from office job to coming home to be an entrepreneur was very difficult. And he'll tell you even today, sometimes he doesn't actually really need to go to the grocery store. He just does because there's other humans there that'll talk. And so, I mean, and so neither's right or wrong. It's just mostly how we get filled up or get drained. So,
Yeah. But yeah, most definitely. And I'm gonna tell you, a lot of our community ends up being introverts, it seems like. And we hear a lot of that like their struggle to show up on social media or networking just because they're like, I'm an introvert, I don't want to do this and stuff. So do you have any tips for them like
I
pushing
do.
past that?
Yep. I need them to stop thinking that showing up on social media is the same as showing up in real life because it's not. And it is a completely different thing. Like this is similar to you and I being face to face somewhere, but for a lot of introverts, this is way easier because we don't have the crowd right in front of us. We don't have the, you know, eyeballs directly on us. And so like I know for me that God has called me to the online space, that I've had many live events. You guys have been at some of my live events. And I am okay with those smaller events like what you've been to, 20, 30, 40 people in a room. But I've also had events like before 2020 hit, and that kind of changed the event world, but where I had 400 women in a room and 200 more watching me live for an event. The following year, we were supposed to have 400 people in the room, and then COVID hit. And, so
Oh,
we had to like shift it to the online space. And so online is different. There are some ways that it's similar. You can still build relationship, you can still bond, you can still all the things, but it does something I think different to introverts than what being in close proximity, because it's not just the talking, it's the when I'm with women in a group, there's sometimes it feels almost like you're being drained by people, like clawed at on an emotional level and a business level. People want your time. There's a lot of hugging, which is all great, right? But it is, for an introvert, it's very draining. There
right.
is, you just kind of can't get away from the crowd for a little bit, and then you're giving of your knowledge, and in my case I'm teaching and I'm coaching, and so all of those things are draining things. So I just have to make sure, like my husband makes me stay anytime I have a live event, even if it's in Kansas City where I live, that I stay in a hotel. That way I am completely able to just lay in bed, order room service, do nothing that night so I can replenish, so that I can do it again the next day. So live events are a different thing, but social media, well, here's what I think, Megan. I think that so many introverts are just a little bit weird, odd, which also makes us very interesting. And so when I look at the people that I follow on social media that are my favorites, the majority of my favorites, because I find them the most fascinating and interesting and fun and cool, they're introverts. They're not the extroverts. And so I think that as an introvert who has to be on social media, I've just really wrapped my head around the fact that, okay, would I rather do something on my phone, post on Facebook, or would I rather go face to face and be in a networking group? Well, I'd rather 1,000,000% of the time do this. So it's like pick your poison, right?
Right.
And the thing with social media is, if I do something here that's dumb, because I used to do Facebook Live all the time. Before that, I did Periscope. I'll never forget the first time I hit record on Periscope and I was sweating bullets. I'm thinking, I am literally going to vomit right now. And you maybe don't even remember Periscope, but that was the precursor to Facebook Live, and then now Instagram Lives and everything else. But I can remember thinking, this is the scariest thing I have ever done. But then I got just so used to it. And for me, like being live on social media, the good news was I knew that I had an out. There was always a stop button. There was a
Yeah.
delete button. There was a I can't do this anymore button. And that's different when you're face to face with people. You don't have that same luxury. Do you know what I mean? So
Yep,
I
that's so
think
true.
and this is nothing against you extroverts, because I'm married to extrovert, I am raising extroverts, I'm surrounded by extroverts at work. But introverts, I think a lot of times are better at social media than what extroverts are. Yeah, because you feel things at a different level. A lot of times you take more time. There's more thoughtfulness behind the words that you use. You're interesting, you're quirky, and that makes you really fun to follow. And so for most introverts who are like, I'm introverted, I'm scared to be on the internet, I'm like, what are you actually scared of? And what are you more scared of? Because I'm more scared of being in front of people and real life people than I am, just faces on the internet. So there's that. Also, am I more scared of going broke and making $0 or showing my face on social media? You got to kind of pick, like, like I said, pick your poison, determine, which is the lesser of the evils, if you will,
Yep.
and get good at it. Because usually people are like, oh, I'm so nervous to be on social media. And I'm like, well, what actually are you nervous about? I don't know that I'm going to say something wrong. Okay, then you click delete and you redo. I mean, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? And I know you mentioned my book, Fear's Not the Boss of You, but I have a whole chapter on that. What's the worst thing that can happen?
Yep.
Well, then somebody's going to think I'm dumb. And I mean, is Felicia ever going to actually like send you a DM and tell you you're an idiot? If she does, I promise you, you can handle it. You don't know her. She can't actually hurt you. You know what I'm saying? So like what we're scared about on the internet, well, what if nobody comments? Well, what if everybody comments? Well, I don't know, but how about you start posting and we actually see what happens and then we'll take care of it later. So
Yep.
I just used a lot of words. I just used my whole quota for the day.
No, I love all that. And I'm going to tell you, even like you talking about introvert, extrovert,
Mhm.
I don't know if it was the last call we did with you where you came on, or maybe another call you did, you were talking about that. And it really opened my eyes with my daughter because she was wanting to start a business and stuff like that. I'm like, well, use social media. She's very extroverted and
Mhm.
she was totally against it. And she's like, there's no way I can't do that. I can't post. And then talking to you and like hearing you talk about it, I'm like, well, that makes sense because if
Yeah.
it's a crowd of people, she'll walk up to them and she'll tell them about it in a heartbeat. But like to post on social media, it's like, no, I'm not, I don't want to do that.
Well, I
So I
can
think
tell
it's
you, how old is she? Is she a teenager, did you say?
17.
Okay, so I have a 17-year-old daughter as well, and it's different for teenage girls on social media right now than it is for the rest of us. And because there's a mob mentality and so there's some real hesitations from that age group of posting on social because they are so dependent on the opinions of their peers at this age that give her 5 years and she'll be like, what was I so worried about? But at 17, she's still very much concerned about what her people in her class, the people
Yeah,
in her school, the other people are going to say about her. And the worst thing that can happen to them at 17 is to have be taken down on the internet by a group of knuckleheads that they go to school with or something. And so it won't always be that way. Or she can build a business where she's not showing her face. She's not forward facing. People don't even have to know it's her in the beginning, if that makes sense. Especially if she's doing product sales, I would 100% suggest that. So, because I've talked to my daughter Ava too, who's like, I want to be an influencer, and I'm like, okay, so you've lived with your mother all of her life, and you understand that the Bible says, "To whom much is given, much will be required." So, part of what's required if you're going to be an influencer is that you are absolutely okay with us being out to dinner and people approaching our table. I mean, we can't have this lifestyle and also this kind of a social media following and also be upset about that or inconvenienced by
right.
that or whatever about that. And so if you want to be an influencer at 17, just know that that's going to come with, you're going to have to be brave enough to post in front of your peers. You're going to have to not care what they say. And she's just, I don't think she's emotionally there yet, which is nothing against her. It's just she's 17. Her whole brain's not developed yet. You know what I mean?
Correct.
I
Yep.
mean, I'm still developing mine at 53, Megan. So
Yeah, no, I get it. Totally get it. But I mean, that, like, even going back to like some of the business owners and stuff on here, like, we see that with them too. Like, some of them prefer to show up in person, and that's okay. You just have to realize, like, hey, this is, like you said, which is the
to whom
easier
much
for
is
you.
given, much will be required. And so, and so if you're like, I think that if there are two brands, let's say there's two coffee shops right down the street from me, and they both charge the same amount for coffee, and they're both, super cute decor, whatever. Everything's equal, but one of them, the owner is very forward facing, and the other, it's just the brand. Which one will I probably be drawn to in terms of just like watching content, in terms of connection? You know what I'm saying? Like, unless I'm like, ooh, I just hate everything that they just said. I can't, stand their demeanor or what, like, which me, so that's not me. But
Yeah,
if all things are equal, sometimes it is the personality of the person behind it that's like the attracting factor. So that's not saying though that you have to be forward facing. In fact, my husband owns a golf apparel company. It's called Fairway Finest. So if there's anybody here that golfs, it's all men's golf apparel, but you can go look at his website. If you look at his social media, he's not forward facing at all. There is zero of my husband on there, zero personality. It's got a logo for, his Instagram. You go to the website. Yes, you see my husband. He's the hot bald man with a full gray beard, but you'll see him in photos. But unless you know that's my husband, you would know that that's an owner of the company. You would just think it's,
right.
one of the paid models or whatever. And so he's not forward facing in the least. In fact, my husband is not even on social media, but he does have, several thousand people, I think 3 or 4,000 people at this point on Instagram and Facebook, but he's got our sons and our sons' friends like take care of the social media account. So if you have a product-based business, unless like I said, it's like the situation like I was just saying with, coffee shops or something. I often think it doesn't make sense to be forward facing. And let me give you one more reason why some people shouldn't face forward, okay? And hopefully everybody understands what I'm saying about forward facing, meaning your logo is maybe not, a logo, but it's a picture of you, or not your logo, but like your profile picture, and you're talking to camera and you're doing stories and reels and whatever else. But if you ever have a desire to sell the business that you currently have, your business being more about what it is that you do and less about you is going to be so much better for a sale. And I'm going to tell you why I have personal experience with this. So back in 1999, I started my decorative painting company in Kansas City, and it became official, I think, in 2000. And I owned that painting company until 2017. So in 2017, God was really swinging me over here to the coaching side of things. I was doing a full pivot, but I was like, okay, I have this painting company. I have 8 women that go out and paint for me every day. We've been on TV 3 different times with Extreme Home Makeover. I've done tons of like home shows, spoke with Joanna and Chip Gaines, on stage. I've been in magazines, all over Pinterest. We've had a lot of publicity for the Magic Brush. That's the name of my painting company. I should sell this thing. Like, I don't want to just shut it down. Let me sell it. We were doing $300,000 or $400,000 a year with me only working outside of the house 10 hours a week. So it was a great little gig, right? So I went to like a business broker, and the business broker is looking at my Facebook page, and I probably had, 300,000 250,000 followers or something at that time. And, I've got Instagram, I've got Pinterest, I've got an email list, and I'm looking at all those things and showing him everything. And he basically, after a couple of weeks of us trying to kind of figure out, is this business sellable? How much could we price it at? He's like, Jennifer, the truth is that you're so forward facing in your business that there really is not a business if you are not the face of it, because people follow you because you're kind of a thought leader, and they're interacting with you because you're coaching them. And yes, you're showing them your painted furniture, but it's like you're talking about your style and the colors you like and why you prefer one product over another. And so you've been so forward facing that unless you were to say, I'll stay on at the Magic Brush for the first year or 2 years, he's like, there really isn't a reason for somebody to want to buy it. There's nothing for them to kind of take over. And I was like, wow, I never thought about that. And I would still do it the way that I did, because me being forward facing is what really built our social media for the painting company, and what really allowed me to completely shift over to coaching, and people still come along, on the ride. But if you're building a bookkeeping business and you're like, I don't want to be forward facing, I don't want to talk to the camera, I would love to sell this one day, then do it and make it very little about you, but be on social media, get good at social media, but just, you don't have to be you talking to the camera. And there's tons of ways to do that, to build still a social media following and things without you being forward facing.
Yep. Yep. Most
Is
definitely.
that helpful?
Yes. Yes, definitely. Because a lot of people struggle with that
Yeah.
tremendously.
But and
Of
can I talk though about, if you do want to be
course,
forward facing, just real quick, can I say that?
definitely. Yeah.
Because the thing about, if you're the face of your business and you're talking a little bit about faith and business, or politics and business, or, I did a story this morning on Instagram about how I'm devastated by watching, the news today, and the airplane crash is just heartbreaking. And so like, if you think to yourself that at ever you don't want to just do bookkeeping, like, I would love to be able to do what Megan and Sherry do. Like, I want to teach some people someday how to do things, or I would like to be an influencer in this space, or I would like to be somebody that's like at the top of the bookkeeping industry. Like, if that's kind of your end goal, and to have the opportunity to do other things in addition to, or just other things in general, write a book on bookkeeping, start a blog, get paid for a, podcast, then I think that you should be forward facing, because the only way you're going to bring people along through all of your shifting and all of your pivots and the next thing you want to do is if you are the face of your business.
Yeah.
Now,
Most
I'm on
definitely.
my soapbox. Okay, there we go.
Yeah. No, most definitely. Because
Okay,
you're building a personal brand.
you really are. That
Yep.
in the beginning is focused on bookkeeping, and it's mostly about bookkeeping and just this much about you. But, and in the beginning, that's how I built the Magic Brush. I was 100% talking all about painting, colors, decorating, but I wasn't afraid to show my face on camera. And I'll get people too that are like, well, I'm, 50, I'm 60. And I'm like, me too. Who cares? I mean, the world needs 50 and 60-year-olds too. I don't like how I look on camera. Well, then use a filter. Like, you at some point you just got to kind of get over your own excuses because we stand in the way of building our own businesses. We're often our own bottleneck. And so, but in the beginning, I talked only about paint. And then slowly we kind of did this where I talked a little less about paint, more about my faith, more about the fact that we were adopting, more about business, more about building a business, more about do you want to do what I just did? And so there was really a shift in content and it became more of like coaching and thought leader type of content over time. But I didn't just drop the painting content overnight. So,
Right. Yep.
yeah.
Awesome. So one of the other things that like we really see with people starting their bookkeeping business is charging their worth. They get so scared to charge. I mean, we in our program help come up with prices and stuff, but sometimes even us coming up with helping them come up with those prices is still like, I can't charge that much because I don't feel like I'm worth it, or they need to do a price increase and they get really scared of that. What are your thoughts or any
Yep.
advice on that for them?
Yeah, I did a podcast on this one time, Megan, a couple of years ago, because I used to do a lot of content about charge what you're worth. And then I started seeing people like charge what you're worth and then add tax. And I'm like, yeah. So I'm posting that content. And then as a girl who loves Jesus, one day the Lord totally convicted me. Wait a second, Jennifer. So is the worth of a girl who's charging $100 to paint a room any different than the worth of a girl who's charging $1,000 to paint a room? When you tell women charge what you're worth, you're telling them to like look at themselves, try to put a price tag on it. When I don't look at them and put a price tag on it, like they need to charge what their talent is worth, not what they are worth. And you need to start speaking that over them. And I was like, I know, I never even thought of it that way. And I did like this whole podcast, and I'm like, look, because I mostly coach women. Ladies, regardless of what you charge, like the Lord loves you and sees you, and you are worth, more than rubies and diamonds is what the Bible says. And your worth is, this big. And so like take the pricing out of it. But if we're going to talk about pricing, here's the advice I'm going to give you. My advice is going to give you like, what is the work that you're doing worth? Not how long have you been doing it? Not how good at it are you compared to a million other people, not what part of the United States do you live in, not like all the other things that sometimes we like figure in when we're coming up with pricing, but like what is the work that you're doing worth to the person that you're actually charging? And I have a really good example. So back when I owned the painting company, we did decorative painting, Megan, and I know you're way too young to know what that is, but essentially we would make people's walls like back when like rag rolling was a thing and feather dusting, and we'd make walls look like stone. We'd make things look like marble. We would, make garage doors look like wood. And so that's what faux finishing or decorative painting was years ago. Well, I used to get asked in Kansas City to paint round columns, like they would be in the dining room or the entryway. This house, when we moved in, had like four of them. We ripped them out that weekend when we moved in. But people would ask me all the time, can you make these columns look like marble? And I'm like, sure. And I had gone to a painting school where we learned like take feathers and you drag it around the column and add some gold. It would look like real marble columns, for a fraction of the price. Well, I got really good at it. And so, because it used to be one of those things where like a column would take me like 6 hours, and I had an hourly rate when I started out of $50 an hour. So I would charge $300 a column. And then I had a good coach. And then I got some perspective and I got a little wiser and I realized, wait a second, now I'm really freaking fast after several years of columns, and I can whip out a column in an hour. So what am I only supposed to charge people $50? I mean, because that's the amount of time that was like my hourly rate. And I was like, that no way. This is worth so much more. Like this work is worth so much more. What they would have paid, for a column if they went to a marble place and bought a marble one versus what I just did, like there's a huge discrepancy there. And so I started charging a minimum of $600 per column. And I got to where I could whip one out in less than an hour. Nobody ever batted an eye at me because the worth was in whatever they were willing to pay for it. The worth was in my talent. It was not in how long it took me, you know, what I thought I was worth, how long I did it, how many years I'd been in the industry, what this girl over here was charging or whatever. And so, at the end of the day, none of that rest of that stuff matters. Here's how I think that you should be pricing. What, feels right in your gut. And I want to talk about that just a little bit more. What is kind of the industry doing? Where do you want to fit in the industry? Do you want to attract Walmart clients, which means you're going to price low and get more people? Do you want to attract target clients, which means you're kind of middle of the road, different clientele, make a little more, possibly work a little less? Or do you want to attract Nordstrom clients? Do you want to price high, having a different sort of clientele? You'll get less people, but you'll, probably make the same. So you decide, like, I don't care where you land at, but you've got to decide what kind of clientele do you want to attract? Your pricing should reflect that. And then, at the end of the day, what is somebody willing to pay for it? And so I can think of so many times when I had my painting company and I would price something for a client. And I'd get halfway through that job, Megan, and I would be so mad at myself because I'd be like, I way underpriced this. I knew I should have charged more. I know I should have. And I wasn't mad at the client. It was me because I would think, Jennifer, you know better. You just had this
Right.
happen a month ago and you underpriced it again. And so then I had to start thinking, okay, why did I underprice it? Well, because you were literally right there in their living room and they said, hey, what would you charge us to paint those kitchen cabinets? And I felt like I was on the spot and I didn't want to be a jerk, when I'm standing there face to face, especially as an introvert. So, I hated the face to face. And I'd be like, well, $2,500, but I can do it for less if you want. Like, and then I would start making like all these like, but if that's too much, you let me know. Oh my gosh, Megan, Megan, Megan. And so I finally figured out, okay, when I'm face to face with someone, I'm never going to give them a price. I'm going to say, you know what, let me put some numbers together for you tonight and I'll email you. And then that helped me because we can be braver on email than we can a lot of times face to face when it comes to pricing. So that would be one tip
Yep.
I would give you. Second tip, a lot of times I would think of, okay, I know this girl's charging that in Kansas City. I know this girl's charging that. And if I would go in the same direction, a lot of times I would just find I was mad at myself later because I knew what I wanted to price something at. I just was afraid of what other people would think. Okay, what is my competitor going to think when she finds out how much I'm charging? She's going to think, who the heck does Jennifer think she is? She's not any better than I. Like, so I was pricing based on other people's opinions. I was pricing based on, giving a number away in face to face when I was on the spot. And so we've got to really quit doing that. Also, I figured out after, because I owned that company for 17 years, right? I figured out over the years, there's no nice way of saying this. Some clients are just hard to work for, Megan.
They
Some of
are.
them are just, they're
Yep.
needy. And I got to where we would have a lot of repeat clients and I would know, okay, this client, she's going to take a lot because she is a whole lot. So that means she's going to be calling me at 9 o'clock at night and she's going to be asking me to come over every day when normally I only go check on my crew 2 or 3 days a week. She's going to be asking me to fix some other things in other rooms while we're there. And so I finally got wise and I started adding just a lot more to her pricing based on what I call the irritation factor, because I knew I'm going to be irritated the whole time working with her. And if I'm going to be irritated the whole time working with her, then we're about to get paid. And so,
Yep.
and so I can think of 3 or 4 clients who I did that with. I might have charged this for this person over here, but for this one, I know she's going to be a whole lot. So she's going to get the irritation factor pricing. She didn't know that. Nobody knew that but me. But then it would make it so when I was working for her, it just like made it worth my extra time that I knew I was going to have to give her. And it turns out a lot of those clients were my best clients. They would come back, year after year for a new room in the house or whatever. But I probably wouldn't have kept taking their jobs had I not figured out just charge more for them because they don't care. They're going to pay it, but they're going to require a lot more of me. So.
Yeah, at least charge it so it makes it feel a little bit more worth it to
Exactly.
you
So if
than
I'm getting calls at 9 o'clock at night, then at least I'm not like, are you stinking kidding me? I mean, yeah,
right,
I might still feel that a little bit, but then I would remind myself, hey, she's cutting me a big check on Friday. Like, suck it up, Sally. So,
right.
you know what I mean? I mean,
Deal with
yeah,
it.
you gotta weigh all the things. So
Yep. No, totally, totally get that. So let's
lay it
see
on me,
what
whatever you've got.
what so a lot of like if you feel like your business just isn't going the way it should be, lost a client. Any suggestions for those people or like they're showing up, they're marketing, but they're not signing anybody, how to keep moving forward, keep showing up?
Yeah. I mean, are you doing social media? Are you building an email list? I just did a whole, like, I'm really in an email list season building because those are the 2 things that you have to do. If you're not actively building your email list and actively building your social media, you probably need to consider running ads. And I would not do ads to your services. I would do ads to a freebie that is like telling people why they need your services or, the 5 ways that having a good bookkeeper could actually save you money in the year 2025. And then you put Facebook ad money behind that. And then you follow it up with an email. Hey, here's some tax tips for 2025. I hope these are, a blessing to you and help save you some money. And then you follow up with that with, hey, if you're freaking out about tax season and you're like, I need somebody to do my bookkeeping, real quick to get me ready, I'm here. Here's a link, set up a call, etc. So running Facebook ads to a freebie is a fraction of the cost of running Facebook ads to your services. So I would do that. I would find some other people who do maybe a complementary business or a similar business. And how can you do like to cross promote one another? Getting promoted on other people's platforms, OPPs, which so right now I'm on your platform and I don't take that for granted. I'm so grateful. So thank you. But, so my hope is that somebody's going to see me here and be like, "Ooh, Jennifer mentioned she has an Instagram. Let me go find Jennifer Allwood on Instagram. Oh, Jennifer mentioned she has a book. Let me go look up her book on Amazon." Like being put on someone else's platform is such a great way to get in front of more people without it costing you, if that makes sense. Did you know there are a lot of people who are now starting to charge their podcast guests? You're going to see
Really?
this more and more in probably not so much this year, but people are really like testing it. And so I wouldn't be able to be here just, to bless you and your audience. I would actually have to charge, or you would charge me, Megan. I would pay you to be here. So because it's essentially just another form of marketing when you allow me to come onto your podcast. And so for those, if you have anybody in your audience right now that has a podcast for, their bookkeeping, just keep that in mind. I think you're going to see that more and more, but that is a great way to get in front of a new audience without having to pay anything. And I would also just keep it in mind, just always remember, you're going to lose clients. It doesn't matter who you are and what you do. And you can be as good as you absolutely try to be, but there's no way, because we're just humans. There's no way of being the perfect person to everyone. And I love that saying, and I've said it a million times, like you can be the juiciest peach in the world, but there's still going to be somebody who doesn't like peaches. It's just the way it is. And so do the best you can with what you've got. But at the end of the day, we have to remember that, that one that's against us, that one that leaves us, that one that quits, bashes us, does a terrible review, whatever. Like, but there were 99 that were for you. And so often we just get consumed with the one person that had a bad experience or that we let down or that is upset about something. And we forget that we just served 99 really well. And so, at the end of the day, I think apologies go a long way. I think being humble and being like, hey, I'm sorry that we are having to part ways. Sorry that I disappointed you in my services. I wish this could have went differently. Sometimes that helps smooth things over, but the majority of the time it doesn't. And you're just going to have to be okay with that. Because you could be an employee for somebody else, Megan, and have a coworker really upset with the way you just handled something at work. You could have a boss that was very disappointed in, your performance or whatever. So like that's anywhere, right? But yet we think when we're business owners, oh, I've got to make everybody happy. You won't, and you probably shouldn't. Like
Right.
you know what I mean? I don't know if anybody, I mean, even Jesus had haters. So like, why do we think we get to be any different? And so the key, I think, is to make sure you don't internalize it, but that you also like, okay, what can I learn from this experience? They just sent a, scathing email to my team. Okay, let me read this. Is there actually any truth to this? Did our team do this? Did Jennifer do this? Should I have done some, like, because if there's some truth to this, like I need to take that feedback and make some adjustments. Like that can be a benefit to me, right? That can actually help me. But I think a lot of times just because people are lacking in emotional maturity, that we just want to suck on our thumb, go to the corner, internalize everything, or we want to like claw back. I'm the one that would suck on my thumb in the corner. My husband will be the clawback one, and jump down somebody's throat and like go to war. But, neither one is really very beneficial. So like do the best you can. See if there's something that you need to learn from it. Do you need to adjust the way that you do business slightly? Do you need to, change something? And if the person's an idiot, then they're just an idiot, and like bless them and release them. And next, because you have other people that need you. So I hope that that's helpful.
Yeah, most definitely. You saying all that kind of remind me. I think it's in your book. Maybe it was something else I'll listen to from you, but I know it came from you. That like by not telling people what you have to offer, your services. So like if you let that, it's make me think if you let that one person hold you back or whatever,
Mhm.
you're doing a disservice to the others who really need
Yeah.
what you
Well,
have to offer.
especially think about what you guys are doing, with bookkeeping and helping those of us that are terrible at that, like, not have to go to prison one day because we didn't we didn't keep our books and we didn't file our taxes. Okay, so like when you are putting your services out onto the internet, out into the world for people to purchase and work with you, I mean, you almost have to think of it. I know this sounds like dramatic, but think of it this way. Like you're sometimes sending out a like a little bit of a life raft, a life preserver to people that need it. Because there's a lot of people like me who are total creative brain, visionary. I'm not good with all the books, which is why I hired a bookkeeper like year one of my business, to the year 2000. I've had a bookkeeper since then. And because I knew that like I know my gifts, I know what I'm not good at. I don't want to get in trouble for things. I want to do everything according to the law. I want to make sure my taxes aren't a mess. I'm not good at this area, so I need help. But a lot of times people are like, I don't know where to look for help. And it just so happens that Mark Zuck, him and his men, they're always listening, right?
Yep.
So if I'm talking about how I need a bookkeeper to my best friend Laura, it, huh, suddenly I've got an ad for bookkeeping on my phone. I mean, they have all said this is how our new world works. And so, and that would be considered a life preserver, right? I've been
Yep.
talking about needing a bookkeeper. I've been thinking I need a bookkeeper. I need a bookkeeper to clean up my business life. I need a bookkeeper to keep me out of prison. I just happened to be on Facebook and see a post from Megan about her bookkeeping services. Bada boom, bada bing. Answer to my problems right there. So when you are wounded, sulking, hiding because you had one client that was unhappy, what you literally are doing then is preventing breakthrough for 99 other people that really do need your services. So you just can't stay stuck there for too long. Figure out what you can learn from it and move on. Because at the
Yep.
end of the day, there are other people that need you. And if you get so derailed, Megan, with one unhappy client in the beginning that you think you should throw in the towel, you decide you're not cut out for this, you can't show up for months on end on the internet, you drop all your other clients, like you probably are just not, you're really wired for entrepreneurship because you're going to have to get thicker skin. And it stinks because this girl's like a formal people pleaser. I can't stand hurting people. I can't stand, type A personality, dropping the ball, disappointing, whatever. But you've got to really get to the place where you have a little bit thicker skin than that, because that one unhappy client will not be the only one. As your business grows too, just you work with more people, the more people you work with, the more you grow, then the more potential there is for more people to possibly be upset. So you've got to
Yeah.
really figure that out in the beginning.
Yep. Most definitely. 100% agree with that. So Sherry dropped the link if anybody's looking for it for Jennifer's book
Thank you.
and her YouTube, all the things. I want to, since you brought up email marketing with that and everything, do you want to tell them a little bit? We've talked about it some here before, but Equip 360, what that looks like, because that's something that it's your program and what that would look like for them.
Sure. Yeah. So I've been business coaching for over a decade now, teaching women how, my focus really used to be like how to grow your social media, because that's my social media was exploding. And over the last couple of years, I've really more pivoted to how to grow your email list, because I never want you to put all your eggs in a social media basket, how to grow your social media and just how to sell online. Right. And what I've noticed is that so many women will come into my coaching group and they don't have an email list. They don't really understand, like, where do I go to build a landing page? How do I get a website? Is it going to cost me $1 bajillion to do those things? And so we did a lot of research a couple of years ago about white labeling a software that's used by millions of people here in the United States. We hired, programmers, software developers, and had that software really made into our own for our clients. And so it's an all-in-one marketing software called Equipped 360, because we're equipping women in particular in business. We have men that use it too, but mostly women. But it's an all-in-one marketing software. So you can build your landing pages there, have your website there. If you have a course, your course can be there. If you have a membership site, all your membership stuff can be there. It replaces like Calendly, Teachable. You can have your calendar for work inside of it. You can email. So instead of using MailChimp or ConvertKit or Entreport or Aweber or any of those, it's got email inside of it. You can schedule your social media. So it's really an all-in-one marketing software called Equip 360. And it allows you to really cancel 5 other things that you've been using and just do it all in one place. And we have a library of, information and videos on how to use it, how to set it up. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to be in business, you have to be doing things on social media. And a lot of times that means scheduling social media. You have to have a way of communicating with clients without social media, though. So that means an email list. You have to have a landing page. You have to have somewhere where people can go and click buy now. And if you don't have that, like, how are you even making money? So all of
Right.
that you can do in Equip 360. And so, yeah, thank you for dropping the link, Sherry, in the chat. I'd love to give your people like a $50 off coupon if we could. So it's
Yeah,
first
definitely.
month of signing up with that link, but it's BB50 because of bookkeeper.
Okay.
And so BB50 will take
Awesome.
$50 off your first month. And I believe it's 147 a month. I hope right now. I think we've got it at 147 a month. And yeah, but again, a lot of times that's way cheaper than, paying for this over here and this over here and this over here. And so it's just all in one. And so it's been really good for our business because when I'm teaching women how to make money online, those are all components that they need. And so what I was doing is telling them, hey, you need a landing page, go over here and buy it. Hey, you need to start an email list, go over here and buy it. You need to have a calendar to give your clients, go over here and sign up for this one. And now instead, I just send them right to our site for Equip 360 and people can go sign up there. So
Yeah, it's awesome. We've been using it for Bookkeeper Blueprint and it's been great to have everything in one spot and it's
yes.
awesome. Yeah, Allie uses it a lot for us on the
Yay.
back end and
Thank you,
she said
Allie.
it's her
Yeah.
favorite
And for
that
your
she's
real
used.
techie people who are in here, it's Go High Level that's been white labeled and, customized for the majority of our clients. And so a very reputable software that a lot of people are white labeling. It takes a lot of time and money to that, but it took us how long? Almost a year, I think, to get that completely up and going. And so we've had the software going on 2 years now. So love it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, any last thoughts, suggestions, or anything for?
No, I mean, 2025 is going to be an interesting year in business. I mean, 2024 was super interesting for a lot of entrepreneurs. It was the struggle bus and we
Yes.
really saw a dip in revenue. I really thought that after the election was finished, regardless of which way the election went, I thought we're really going to see a swing back. Turns out we haven't really seen a swing back for a lot of companies yet. So if any of your people are here and they're discouraged about business right now, like get encouraged because it can't stay like this forever. There will be an upswing coming. And so, I think the further we get past the holidays and, people paying for bills for the holidays, the closer you guys get to tax season and things, the more things are
Yeah.
going to pick up. And so if you had a discouraging 2024, I encourage you to really do some different things this year because you can't keep doing the same old things and expect different results. So, we
Okay.
just launched a brand new course last week on list building. First time we've launched that. We're trying some different things. And so try some different things this year. Stay under some really good coaching from your team because you guys have a pulse on the industry. A lot of times people, when sales are down, that's the first thing that they'll do is cancel their coaching. And I'm like, don't cancel your coaching. Who else is going to link arms with you? Who else is going to give you the shortcuts? Who else is going to be your motivator? So stay in the coaching and I would try some new things this year, but I'm encouraged about 2025 for sure.
Awesome. Super exciting. Well, thank you so much for coming. We really, really appreciate it. This was
Thanks for
great
having
as always.
you.
So, and y'all, if y'all have, is there anything else you want to, I think Sherry dropped YouTube. Is there any other way that follow you on social media,
Yeah, I
like you're
mean,
on Facebook, Instagram?
I'm more active on Instagram than I am on Facebook anymore, even though
Okay.
my Facebook following is bigger. And if these are podcast listeners, you can go subscribe to the Jennifer Allwood podcast. We're nearing 7 million downloads. It feels like we've just kind of been hovering here for a hot
Awesome.
minute, but we're nearing 7 million downloads. And I'm excited to kind of hit that threshold just so I can do a picture with balloons. I mean, let's be honest.
Yes, that's exciting. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you ladies so much. The
Yep.
best to you both.
You
You take care.
too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. That was awesome. So much information from her as always.
Guys, I dropped in the chat just now her Instagram and her podcast. So she is in all the places wherever you normally consume information. Feel free to grab that there. Oh, yeah. And she's increasing her uploads this year. So if you're in a rut with who to listen to, feel free to explore adding her to your weekly list.
Yep.
Well, that was fun. And I do agree. I think there's 2025. I think there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of shifting going on in the bookkeeping world as well. So if you do not have a roadmap, if you do not have a plan, that is, I know January right now going into tax season, like normally I don't market during tax season. I have been sought out more and have already done a lot. Like this year as far as cleanups and new clients and things like that. So it's already picked up in the bookkeeping world. So if you're not marketing, and normally I don't because I don't want the influx right now, and I know why, but I do a lot of my marketing kind of towards the end of tax season and right before the fall tax deadlines. So that's when I do a lot of my marketing, because I can take my time onboarding them a little bit more. So just know that that is going on. There is an upswing. I think, Megan, and you're seeing that a little bit too, right? Kind of just that upswing going into tax season that we normally see. But I
Yep.
think 2024 was dead for a lot of people. I mean, I know my business still grew. Like, it just wasn't like every single month was I marketing and looking, forcing those clients to sign. We had a bookkeeper in the fall sign 9 clients, October through December. So, and that's
Yep.
normally when I would market. I did not do marketing. that we were so busy with the cohort and things like that I just kind of laid low. So be encouraged. There are going to be some changes in the industry this year. I'm already kind of seeing some of them. So if you're like, what is that? We do have the bookkeeper boot camp happening next week. So Bookkeeper Success Blueprint, if you're looking to join that. But Megan, what else? Sorry, I just jumped in.
No, that's
2025
perfect.
is already like, there's going to be some fun had this year for
Yep.
sure.
Yep. I mean, we have big plans. We're trying to make changes in the program and stuff moving forward for y'all that'll be super helpful for y'all and stuff too. So we want to see y'all succeed, reach whatever your goals are, to whether it's have more time with your kids, make more money, whatever the case is, just all the things. So what can we do to help y'all make that happen is kind of what we want to help figure that out and make it happen for sure. So super excited about the boot camp next week. And yeah, all the things.
And then we did just kind of change the Bookkeeper Blueprint with that in mind, the 2025 kind of version of the course and that program. If you know that you have been wanting to jump in, feel free to join us now with that, Megan, right?
Yep.
So I can grab that link for everyone. Oh, Allie, I don't think that page is updated. It must be a different one. Just kidding. Or is there a different link that I'm not seeing? I can send the checkout page, but the landing page I don't think is got that update yet. There we go. Leo. So if if you're like, hey, I know when Megan started her business, she was doing a lot of driving. When I was driving as an auditor, the clients were all across Phoenix, which if you're in Phoenix, like, I mean, Queen Creek up to Peoria and down to Maricopa, right? Like, it's not just like Phoenix. It is pretty widespread. So I did a lot of driving. And okay, here you guys go. Here's that from Allie. Trying to see what the difference was. Okay, cool. Yeah, maybe it just wasn't published, or maybe I didn't refresh. Sorry, guys. So there's that link for you guys. But I did a lot of podcast listening. Megan, you listened to course content while you were driving.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, I did.
So with that in mind, we have tried to tailor this program to exactly what we wanted when we started. So we have a private podcast of the primary course content for you. So you can download it to your phone. You can listen to it while you're jogging. You can listen to it in the car. Obviously, if it's something that like you really need to see the screen, so all of the QuickBooks tutorials, that's still in the course, but all of the like thinking process, how to set up the business, how to run the business, some of that's really helpful to listen to. And you can always go watch the slides or whatnot in the course later if you're like, ooh, I'm going to go grab that. But it keeps you motivated as you're consuming stuff. Whatever we think about, we act on, right? So if you have a history or a season of being negative Nancy, then life is going to produce negative Nancy-ness.
Yep.
But if you're wanting to do this, and this is for like, I seriously, when I started my business, I wanted to make $1,200 a month. That is all I wanted to do. I wanted to make $1,200 a month because I wanted to take home less than that. Like, I was just looking for very little. My first year I did 30,000. working pretty much just weekends and nights around the kids. And it was completely around my 2 under 2. Like, lots of napping, lots of diaper changes, not a lot, I was just growing based on what I wanted. And then there was a need to kind of 4X that. So then I went up to 6 figures and I was able to push that marketing. So you can definitely change your goals. Dreams do change. So if you're looking for, to replace your income or just to cover a bill, the Bookkeeper Blueprint is the roadmap to do that. And it's designed to really cover your first 3 to 5 years in business, depending on, what education you've already gotten, if you've been in other courses. So it's going to fill in some of those gaps that those courses might be missing. If you're getting started, it's going to give you everything that you're like, wait, what if I just offered this? We're going to answer that question because we have bookkeepers currently asking us that questions, and we asked those questions when we were getting started. So we answered it. So that's kind of a one-stop shop, and you don't feel the need to like be on everyone's email list so that you're checking emails more than you're marketing. Okay. Hopefully I didn't go on too much of a tangent there, but.
Yep, that was great.
Fun. If you're thinking about using Upwork, it does include the Upwork training, how I grew my business on Upwork. It gives you the proposals, how I do that. And then there's a whole section on cleanups. So if you're like, how do I do, I've got to clean up. That's my first job, which is tax season. You're likely going to have a cleanup. How do you do it? How do you quote it? How do you scope it out? How do you deliver the work? What about those special scenarios, those unique scenarios? The Make Money Faster's with cleanup bonus that's in there includes all of that. I mean, it's not just me in that one. That is all the coaches bringing all the scenarios into that specific course for you.
Yep.
So there is a little bit about the Bookkeeper Blueprint. And if you're not emailing, I would consider adding that to your routine this year. I've had clients sign just because they got an email. So they met with me, all of those things. They hired someone else for whatever reason, or they just got busy, but then they get those emails, and it makes it easy for them to be like, oh yeah, I was going to do that. But if they're not getting emails from you, it's too hard to be like, how do I contact her again? Where do I go? What was her number? Oh, here's a client calling me. So, and they've completely moved on, right? You had that thought. And if your email popped up right then and there, or that week it had hit their inbox, it's easier to find because you're top of mind. So even if that's your minimum goal, is to stay top of mind with using good emails, Equip 360 is a really inexpensive way to do that well. So, and be compliant and not have to stress about, is the software set up right?
Yep. And
then the office hours, the support that Jen and her team give over there is actually really good. So we were early adopters. We were like first adopters. I got in, started touching all the things before they were probably ready for us to touch all the things. And so like, we went through all the hiccups in the early stages that they have resolved now. But every time we hit one where maybe they changed something and it messed up what we were doing. And so now we're like, wait, that launch didn't fire. Like, what's going on? And we would email them and they're like, ooh, we changed this thing. We'll go fix that for you. And they were just that back end support. And yeah. And just even setting up my bookkeeping business, when I was setting that up, we ran into roadblocks, which weren't normal. Like, I will break things. You guys will not have it. Like Megan will not experience things because I'm just going to break stuff. But we had some issues with my domain for whatever reason. Anyway, they were able to like really troubleshoot beyond, I think, what they would like normally try to do. So, and I taught them a couple of things because like the issue I was having, I wound up getting on support with something else and was able to email them. So they have experienced so much, and the kinks aren't really there anymore. I'm talking like first year when we first adopted it, when they were still working with their development team. And we knew that. We knew that when we adopted it, but we knew what it could be. So we were okay with going through that with them. Yeah. Just because their support and their integrity is there. So
yep. most definitely.
Well, yeah. Okay, there's my rant on Equip 360. But like, guys, I have tried everything. I've done lead pages. I've done ClickFunnels. I use Squarespace. I've done WordPress. I haven't used Wix. I've done GoDaddy. Actually, our first website for CB4S was GoDaddy
Yeah.
too.
And then we used Teachable for
Oh,
this for a little while.
Yeah.
And yeah, Thinkific, not Teachable. Well, I'd say
Yeah.
Teachable.
And now it's
Thinkific.
all in one spot. So you guys have
Yeah.
gone through that journey with us.
Yep.
But now it's all in one spot. And we're not having to use like a bazillion different things, which is just really nice. When you're training a team member, thank you, Allie. 2, when you're just trying to keep things automated and simple. Like,
Yep.
hello there. When you're trying to keep things simple, like having a lot of different software, and then you're having to train like people on once you get bigger, or having to remember how this connects to that, and then something's broken and you're like, which side's broken. You know, it's really easy, and then you don't have to log into, like, one of the issues I was having with Constant Contact. So we use Constant Contact. I used Constant Contact for my website. Then they got rid of the website. Like, and so then you're having to like use lead pages with, it's just, having one thing makes it so much easier for sure.
Yep.
So, okay. Well, I've kept you guys 4 minutes over on my rant.
Don't forget boot camp next week. We look forward to seeing y'all all on Monday. And we'll also see y'all back here next Thursday.
Next Thursday. Okay. Bye, guys.
All right. Bye.